بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. My name's Umar Al-Ani and our new associate Tala Haddad. We're going to introduce ourselves a little bit more in a minute here, but we're here talking about this concept of a village. It takes a village, and we have what it takes. And so we're gonna go to the next slide, inshallah. What we'll do today, Naam, what am I doing?
Can we just try this?
Yeah. Is this giving you feedback?
Yeah. Alhamdulillah.
Oh yeah, that's much better. So we'll introduce ourselves and then introduce this topic and this idea of a village. And we'll talk about this question of, do we have what it takes to actually develop into what we want them to become, inshallah. And then there's a call to action for all of us here in the audience, inshallah, in the masjid. This extends to everybody everywhere, inshallah, bi'idhnillah. And then we'll conclude and we'll have time for questions from everybody, inshallah. Next slide. And next slide, and Tala, you can start us off, inshallah.
Hi, assalamu alaikum. My name is Tala. I am Palestinian. Alhamdulillah, I was born and raised in Orange County. Generation Palestinian Muslim American. Gen Z, so I did grow up in like a post 9/11 America. I'm newly married. Alhamdulillah, my kids were established back in December, so it's been a few months now. I recently graduated from Cal State Long Beach, so definitely like homegrown Muslim youth. I am pursuing fall in international relations, which is my field. I grew up in Anaheim. I've done a lot of stuff like in the Orange County community, but I just migrated to Tustin, so not too far of a drive. Today I discovered this later in my COI. I like to consider myself kind of like a behind-the-scenes community person. Not the person, not the type to like go out and give talks or anything. But alhamdulillah, I've helped plan a couple of different events. We've done a couple of barbecues, summer camps, winter camps, youth groups, Friday night stuff, huge summer thing, renting out ice skate rinks and movie theaters, and alhamdulillah, that's all really been nice. I did Saturday school youth group, over to ISOC from inside of Orange County in Garden Grove 2 years ago, where I started working, and that's where I am right now. Right now I do grant work, so I help refugees. My is not as interesting as our one is not as interesting, if I'm being honest with you, but I think that I can slow down with the stuff that you're talking about.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Sara Isso. I'm Algerian. Last name is. I am from Detroit, born and raised, and I went to Islamic schools there. So I have always been involved in the communities. I've been involved in Detroit, in Salt Lake City, in Memphis, and I've seen how they come together and what the youth need. Alhamdulillah, I feel like there's barakah all across America, subhanAllah. So, وذلك فيكم وذلك أولادكم. We've been married 13 years, he said, and on his 14 years. We have 4 children, alhamdulillah. Hafsa is 10, Asma is 7, Musa is 5, and Isra is 3. And I studied exercise science in Utah and leadership in Memphis. Secret ninja. I have a couple black belts, but I'm not going to brag about that. I am a certified doula, so I help with birth education and trying to get more of our youth into natural birth. We have a significant amount of age and everything, so it's very important to educate them about that. And I've always been involved with Quranic studies at the masajid. I am not hafidha, but bi'idhnillah ta'ala, all please make dua for me, inshallah. There are some of the things that I've been involved in. Kind of meshed Quran and self-defense games for girls. in, and Amana is just a social services project that I've been trying to do as well. So I'm kind of all over the place. And this is Omar.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Umar, and I'm first and foremost very confused about my identity. I grew up in the States. I was born and raised in America. Iraqi. My mother was a convert from Mormonism. Allah yarhamha, she passed away 15 years ago, or 12 years ago. Allah yarhamha. I grew up in Utah, Colorado, spent time in New York, graduated high school in Utah, got married, lived in Utah, spent time in Idaho, which if you were, what's in Idaho? Nothing. So there's nothing there, nothing to worry about. I'm just gonna ignore that part of my life anyway. I graduated Utah with a bachelor's in communication. I finished my master's degree in Islamic studies and Islamic leadership with the Islamic Seminary of America under Sheikh Yasir Qadi. I studied in Kuwait overseas for a little bit of time, Quran, Islamic studies, kinds of things, alhamdulillah wa shukr. I don't even know what it says on the bottom there.
8 years for the full time Islamic studies.
Oh, I've taught Islamic studies full-time for 8 years. Currently, I'm the director of Tarbiyah at our school in Memphis, Tennessee, and I cover Quran, Islamic studies for the whole school, as well as leadership programs, and I do a lot of youth activities and stuff on the side, mostly in the masajid. I've been involved in Saturday schools or Sunday schools and Saturday weekend schools and since and taking youth and on excursions and mentoring them since that time as well, alhamdulillah wa shukr. These are some of the programs that I've developed in Florida. I ran Youth of County, where we had 7 separate weekly programs running every week for different age groups from first grade all the way until college.
You're having your thing in Sacramento next month.
I'm teaching a class on prophetic leadership in Sacramento next month, inshallah, with Tisa. No worries about that, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair. That's mostly about me. We have a question up here I wanted everybody to ask or answer. This is, why are you in Muslim youth work? When I was 19 and I started, and people were asking me, what are you going to study? Where are you going to study? I didn't really have a good answer, but I always knew one thing I wanted to do was connect the older generation of Muslims with the younger generation of Muslims. Bridge the gap and be that. This when I was 19, and alhamdulillah, no matter what I studied, that was something that always has been a constant in my life. And the reason that I'm drawn to it is because I myself realized that for somebody like me to be involved, I didn't always have that for myself. I didn't always have somebody to rely on, or to help me, or to ask questions, or to push me. And so I always just wanted to be that person for others, inshallah. So do you guys want to answer the question or no? Go ahead. Got it.
I got involved in Muslim youth work pretty young, starting around middle school at Mr. Ansar. I think for me, I benefited so greatly from it. I grew up going to youth group my whole life. I grew up receiving services from the masjid when I was a youth person. So alhamdulillah, it was really beneficial for me. I think it was really challenging because a lot of like but I had mentioned previously that I did grow up as a Muslim and a post 9/11 America. So throughout almost all of my elementary middle school experience, it was riddled with like post Al Qaeda fear, but also like growing social fear surrounding attacks happening every 2 seconds, and these massive hate crimes. And it was really difficult to kind of like stick to that and hold on to my faith. And for me, my mom really felt the best thing for me to do was to be surrounded by people and kind of so lucky enough to have people who I could relate to have youth mentors, and how that because I benefited so greatly from that, it was almost like a no-brainer that as soon as I became old enough to even do a little bit, that I would do that. And alhamdulillah for that, the challenges right now are not the same. So thankfully, alhamdulillah, I don't think that modern day youth are experiencing the same issues of like mainstream Muslims being, mainstream media portraying Muslims as terrorists or anything as much. I think that there's definitely an issue with Muslim perception. Things that are more detrimental to Iman because they are on such more of a personal level.
So this question is just basic.
Just because I wanted the girls, women who were doing more. I wanted them to see women who are having fun.
I wanted them to see and to know that yes, you have opportunities, and going to the gym for this generation is different from our generation.
But as a mom, I'm not in my life.
You still have to give back, even if you're, going through different stages of life. So I didn't want to lose myself, essentially. I didn't want to lose that I was a martial artist. I didn't want to lose that love to recite Quran. I didn't want to lose, because motherhood takes so much from you that you have to rediscover yourself. And so for a lot of the teenagers and some of the girls that were just getting married, mentoring them to understand that holding on to yourself is better.
What do you have to give back?
Just being that as an embodied Muslimah trying to fulfill her full potential was why I was started to help him out at the masajid, alhamdulillah. And it's fun for me, alhamdulillah. I love giving them, I love developing relationships with them. A chance to be me, alhamdulillah. So it's more selfish reasons, to be honest, alhamdulillah.
Jazakallah khair. Next slide. Okay, so it takes a village. How many of you guys have heard this statement? Okay. What does it take a village to do? You guys can talk, it's okay. Raise children. Takes a village to raise children. What else? Does that everybody agree with this answer? Usually this is what the phrase entails. It takes a village to raise children. Now you actually have a village as parents. Is everybody here a parent? No? Inshallah one day? Inshallah one day. Inshallah. Okay. So parents, do we feel like we have the village? 100%. And why? So some people are saying yes. Why do we have the village? Does anybody want to share? The community. Okay, good. Any other answers? No. Thank you, Yasmin. Allah barik feek. No other answers. Support during emergencies. Okay. And you had your hand up and you went like this. Why are you saying this? Too personal. We don't want to open up the doors yet. Okay, I'm going to do that, inshallah. Our collective goal as Muslims, everybody, we don't even have to say it, right? But the reason we build masajid, the reason we come together, the reason we establish schools and build institutions is actually for this goal, right? Even though nobody says it, to raise Muslim youth who are spiritually grounded, emotionally resilient, and actively engaged in their communities. This is what we want. Whether we never said it or not, or we all agreed on it, this is what everybody wants for their kids, inshallah. Can you switch it over? Why did it come over here?
I think they're having like their own tech issues.
Oh. Brother Amin, you're messing up the slideshow, bro. It's okay.
Yeah, you're good.
Where are we at?
We're here.
Because interview was there. We go. This is for me. Oh, where did it go? So this one stays here. Oh, it's duplicating the image.
Yes.
Okay, I will. Bismillah. We're not going to see our notes. That's okay. Okay, so we're not going to be able to see our notes over here, inshallah. That's okay. So this is our collective goal, whether we mention it or we all agreed upon it or not, or we had a conversation about it. This is what we want for our kids. But how do we actually get there? Can you do the next slide? We know today's youth face real challenges, right? We have issues with phones, we have issues with identity crisis, we have issues of so many different things. Is this the, can you borrow this?
There's no notes for this one. You can put it in front of your phone.
There's no notes for this one? Okay. So they face these challenges, and it takes more than just a single family to take care of these things. It takes more than just a single institution or a single piece of the puzzle to take care of everything. And to get them through these challenges, it requires everybody to be on board. Most of the time, if not all of the time. And what that really tails down to, if we really wanted to get to the where it takes a village, is I can trust my kids and you can trust your kids with everybody in the village. And that they will be raised and treated like their own kids, no matter who it is. So if my kid comes and, climbs up the minbar and jumps off, I can, hopefully, inshallah, in a village, a proper village, is expect every ammu to go up there and say, hey, you shouldn't be doing this, in a gentle manner, right? Or, correcting them in a proper way, right? Or I can send my kid over to somebody's house and I know I don't have to inspect whether or not there's gelatin in that food, right? Or they're doing something dubious or watching something that is inappropriate or whatever it is. My children aren't going to be exposed to something outside of that, right? And so that's the goal. But do we have what it takes? So on the left, your guys' left, we have something called the 5 C's, 6 C's of positive youth development. And then we have societal network here. Now, when we say what we want our kids to have, what we want youth to develop into, there are academics that actually have studied what actually makes a young person grow up to be something that we're all going to be proud of. So they scientifically, they went and they identified these things in an academic manner. We don't need the academics because we get it from the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. So there's an incident in which the Prophet ﷺ told Anas radiallahu anh, who was the servant boy of the Prophet ﷺ, he asked Anas, gave him a task to go and deliver something in Medina from one place from his home to somewhere else in Medina, right? And so Anas takes the errand, whatever it is, something to deliver, and he goes on his way after the Prophet ﷺ told him to do something. And he's on his way to the person's house, and he notices the other boys. Anas is like 11 years old, 12 years old at this time. Notices the other boys in Medina in the street playing. So he forgets everything that the Prophet ﷺ told him to do, and he stops and he plays with the boys in the street. After some time, the Prophet ﷺ comes and finds Anas, right, and sees him that he's playing with the boys, and he says, what happened to the thing I asked you to do? Right? And Anas actually narrates this, and he says in a hadith, he says, I completely forgot about this until I saw the Prophet ﷺ coming before me, and he's basically saying, I got shocked and I was worried. The Prophet ﷺ came and said, what happened to the errand? And he said, Ya Rasulullah, I forgot. The Prophet ﷺ said, let me have it. And then he went and he took care of it. And Anas ends the story by saying, the Prophet ﷺ never said, why did you do this? Why did you do that? Right? Why did you do this? Why did you do that? Anas saying this about the Prophet. This one incident of the Prophet ﷺ with Anas has all of those C's in it. This one incident has all of those C's. So what are they? Caring, compassion. So it's not just that the adult showed caring and compassion to the young person. they embodied it and showed how you're going to present, how you're going to do it with other people. And we know this because Anas radiallahu anhu says he never asked why. He never asked, why did you do this, why did you do that? Competence. The Prophet ﷺ gave him a task to do to accomplish that he's going to be able to be competent in. It was at his level, something he could do. Whether he accomplished it or not is not the question. He was tasked with something he could fulfill. Isra, you want the mic? No, she don't want the mic. Okay. Where we got? Confidence. The Prophet ﷺ never belittled what Anas did. Right? He never belittled what Anas did. He understood that he's a young boy. He's going to play. He's going to get distracted. He's going to do what it is. He didn't destroy the confidence. Right? And in fact, he built it up and made him feel like he didn't do something terrible or wrong. Right? In that moment. Connection. The Prophet ﷺ didn't just let Anas take care of it and never went and followed up after him. He went and figured out what happened with Anas. Right? And this is part of positive youth development. And character, the Prophet ﷺ embodied what it means to have proper character and proper adab with Anas in that incident, and contribution, of course, this comes very clearly. Now, when we have youth growing up, they come from a child and they're, you look at this social network that they have, and the school network, and the masjid network, and their work network. What we want to see in a village is everybody's working together with these things to develop youth. Right? And this is a big pill to swallow. This is a big undertaking to have, and it requires a lot of open communication. It requires being vulnerable. It requires being people who can be brave and say, hey, that wasn't appropriate, or this is appropriate. I think we can do things this way. I think we can do things that way. And so this is what it takes, and our model actually comes from the Prophet ﷺ. And we find this even in stories of the Sahaba, how they would, the children of Ali radiallahu anhu, they mention that our father, Ali radiallahu anhu, would teach us the battles of the Prophet ﷺ, right? Like we would learn the surah of the Quran, right? And we would go and they would play in the streets or whatever like this, and everybody would be talking about the same thing, right? In Medina, in Basra, in Kufa, right? And so they had this village at that time, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to have a piece of that in our day and time, inshallah. I think this is for one of you guys. Is this on here?
So, subhanAllah, it's so deep to say we need a village, but we're just hitting the surface points here. It's when things get really sticky with your kid and you need someone that you truly trust to handle the situation very carefully. It's when it will make or break your child how they talk to your child, right? It's in those situations as a mom, you need those people who are as careful as you would be with their children. You need a person that truly understands that what you say to them and how you correct them is going to develop who they are. It's going to develop how they think of themselves. It's going to develop everything about them. We can't be passive observers. We can't be the person that says something to their child and the child next to them doesn't get the same nasiha. We can't let any child through the cracks. We have to have that heart that we give equal attention and equal ihsan to every child. Because every child in the community is our child's circle. So not just the parents, but the kids as well. So for me, that's what it means to have a village, is that if a child is making an innocent mistake, are you the one who's going to jump on them and break their being, break their self-esteem? Are you going to break my child's self-esteem for making a very innocent mistake that they don't understand they're doing? Or are you going to be there and have the hikmah to talk to them in a way that truly makes them say, oh, that was wrong, and not be embarrassed to hear it from you? Not be the person that they recoil from. Because sometimes as moms, we can't bring that about for some of our kids, and we need the third person. And we need the ammo and the khalto and everybody and all the eyes in the masjid watching. And that's what it means to have the village, is that the people that are around us are truly people that we trust to talk to our children when it's difficult. And a lot of the bigger things, we're getting better and better at talking to kids about stuff, but a lot of the things we do need a third person, and we need echoes. We need echoes of the madrasa, we need echoes from the masjid, we need echoes when they're playing basketball, we need echoes and reinforcement of the same lessons everywhere. And we can't do that unless we know each other and we're building bonds of strengthened relationships with each other and taking care of the kids as a whole. Like in another masjid, a lot of masajid now are having kids tarawih. But then when I was growing up, the boys were playing basketball. We're 11, 12 years old. When we sat, they're all over the girls. تعالوا تصلوا, تعالوا تصلوا. All of the girls have to be inside. But الولاد, no, they're all playing basketball. So the village that we need is the village of the ammus who are going to come and say, Ya ibni ta'al, ta'al al-falah, come to your success right now. Give up the basketball. It'll be better after you salli, the basketball will be sweeter. So the boys can be taken care of with as much care as the girls are. So that the girls have the influence of all of the khaltos because they're being careful enough to give them the messages in a nice way. Because it's too easy to break girls. It's too easy to hurt them. It's too easy to make them hate something. So the support and the development requires that ecosystem of all of us working together on tiny, minute situations that we can't even bring up right now. But when we have kids, we understand that everyday interactions develops who they are. And everyday interactions develops who they're going to listen to next time. And if somebody comes and blows up on my child's going to be afraid of them forever. They will run away from you. They will never take another nasiha from you again. That's how kids are. And it starts young. It doesn't start even in middle school. It starts at even Isra's age. Isra, somebody will say, Salam alaikum, or intimidate her now, khalas. There's no nasiha after that. Forever she's going to be running behind me and not getting away from that person. So understanding the dynamic of what our kids need and how we can all work together in small and big situations is important. Because we can't take care of the big situations unless everyday interactions are going right. And it takes being able to take nasiha from somebody or the adults around us to tweak and to learn our communication and to get better at communicating. Which is Omar's thing, mashallah. He understands the kids, and even I admit, like, it's an amazing thing when you see a kid that is just turned off to the entire community because an interaction did go wrong. It's an amazing thing to see that kid come around and say, you know what? It's not that bad. Like, that person, I get that they had my best interest at hand. So even correcting situations requires teamwork. It requires adults to be humble. It requires adults to say, I made a mistake. You know what, Habibi, come here. I have to talk to you. Made a mistake, kind of blew up at you. I was stressed, I was this. I'm going to be human and I'm going to tell you what I really meant. And hug the kid or the girl and fix what we did wrong. So in those real situations, that's where a community blossoms, and that's where the youth get taken care of. It's not all on him, it's not all on me, it's not all on the board, it's not all on the ammo who's always in the masjid and sees your kids all the time, or the khatta that's always here. It's on all of us. So establishing systems for all of us to truly be able to communicate as a symbiotic relationship, as people who are echoing the same thing and not saying things differently and not acting differently, is important. And one thing that both of us have noticed in different communities is some communities will just have events for kids, and then they'll just say, okay, youth director, keep them busy. Youth director, entertain them. Youth director, take care of it. Like it's a magic band-aid. But it's not a magic band-aid. It takes all of us every single day, and that's what needs to be understood. It can't be broken up, it can't be separated. It's all of us working together. You're the youth director too. You're the youth director too. When the kids are in front of you, you're a youth director as well. Because the hikmah is the responsibility is on you when they're in front of you. All of us. And I'm gonna give this last point. Sorry.
I think that it's definitely no.
Have you seen?
You did great. There's nothing more to say.
I talk too much.
No, you don't talk enough.
No.
I think that just echoing on to like what Sada was touching on, I think that it's really easy for us, especially the older you get, to recognize problems. It's a lot more difficult. It's a lot more difficult to actually recognize how to fix those. And I think that I would argue as somebody who's kind of not that old, I'm not old at all, I think. But as somebody who's grown a little bit and kind of saw both sides of the coin, I'd argue that right now having internal issues that affect your iman and affect your personality is a lot more difficult than having the externalities that I think many older Gen Z, millennials, Gen X, and especially the immigration generation did face. You know, I think that right now discrimination has taken on a different lens, but more importantly, I think that there are real issues that youth are having. They're extremely time sensitive, extremely urgent, the stakes are really high. It's stuff that is, like, I would argue is infiltrating our iman, is infiltrating our systems, is infiltrating our deen itself, and it's taken over in a way where people have just kind of accepted it. Like, people are like, oh, it's okay, well, as long as, you know, as long as you're not addicted to vile things, then just them being in the background doesn't matter. Or as long as you're not attending concerts and having music in your environment doesn't matter. And it's that negation and that can be really harmful. And I mean, Canada for massage communities like ICY who recognize in order to have actual consistent programming, there needs to be an investment. That investment is not just monetary, it's people like you who actually recognize that there's a need for it and saying, okay, how can I help? Maybe my kids are older, but I have this experience, or I have this knowledge, I have, you know, my doctorate in math or computer science, and how can I give back to my own community, because it's a full circle. And especially like as Muslims, that's where we can stop here, because there is reward here that you can actually see. That's the beauty of working with youth, that it is tangible, it is quantitative, but there's also more than that kind of waiting for you. And by having people like you in the village that massages like ICY and like all massages should have, all communities should create, you're building a connection for the little ones to have a connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through massaging, through their communities, through their people, and that is something that carries on with you. When you have a healthy relationship with Allah, with His house, with His creation, you're able to carry that on no matter where you end up going. You're not trapped in a bubble. And alhamdulillah for Islam, because there are other religions that feel like, okay, you know, if you leave this area, for us, like your religion goes out the window. Or you have places that are extremely concentrated with only one sect of a religion, and it's because they feel vulnerable. And by building those strong Muslims, the people, Muslims that have strong identity, you're able to say, okay, no matter where you go, as long as you have the beliefs of Allah, His messenger with you, you'll be okay, inshallah.
So, okay. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. So, kind of tying back into everything, to raise Muslim youth who are spiritually grounded, emotionally resilient, and actively engaged in their communities. This is our collective goal. But where are we seeing cracks in the system? For someone in my position, I see cracks mostly when it comes to when young people reach the marriage age. Right? This is when we see the most cracks. And then thereafter, when young people start raising kids, right? Because what we see when they get into the marriage network and they start trying to get married after high school, after college, or during that time frame is the village shows or it doesn't. Either the village is there and it's going to support and incubate people for marriage, right, and have prepared them for it, or the village had prepared them for a life of individualism. Most of the time what we're seeing nowadays in the United States is individualism. So there's people, young Muslims coming together and getting married, right, but they're living their own separate lives. This idea of a community isn't even, valued in the individuals to even extend beyond that into a family and extend beyond that into building a community. So that's one of the cracks we're seeing. One of the other cracks we mentioned is in raising kids. A lot of people's focus in education for their children is on dunya, is in developing children who can go and make money and produce something for themselves or their family, and not necessarily as resources for the community. I think that goes largely back to what the community is focusing on in general, inshallah, bi'idhnillah. We talked about that collective goal. We talked about the positive youth development framework. We talked about how the Prophet ﷺ set the bar and set the example for us. And now the call to action is for all of us to consider, myself included, what are we willing to do to make that village work for us? Whether it's here or Memphis, Tennessee, or Texas, what are we willing to do? Does it mean we need to invite more people over to our houses? Does it mean I need to spend time talking to people outside of my own nationality and ethnic group? Does it mean I need to take risks and send my boys over to sleep over at somebody else's house? Does it mean I need to take risks and actually maybe go camping myself with the kids? So that's the call to action. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to open our minds and open our hearts to do what's needed for ourselves and for our children and for others' children as well, inshallah, bi'idhnillah. I would like to open the door, inshallah, for everybody here to ask questions if they have any. I opened a lot of questions for you guys, so I'm hoping somebody pushes back on some things that were mentioned, bi'idhnillah. If anybody has any questions, inshallah.
If anyone has questions, I can pass them on to them.
Thank you all for the evening. So I have a question. You talked a lot about the village and how the kids are kind of the primary kind of goal that we're looking at as if we're a village. What do each of you think, or how would each of you kind of bring the parents and the adults into the fold? Because what we see, having all of the subjects in our area, and we attend kind of all of them depending on what events are going on or what time of day it is. I see as a parent of 3 kids, 16, 13, 11, girls and boys, and I see that one of the challenges to the village is not just the kids and having a youth director, but it also comes down to the adults in the village and how do we bring them into the fold. So for each of you, how would you tackle bringing parents into the fold, bringing them into sort of this vision of what you have individually as what the village looks like for you, and how do we ensure that as kids grow, that parents of all kind of backgrounds are motivated to come to the same goal?
Excellent question. Now, repeat the question. Okay, so the brother is asking, mashallah, how do you bring parents into this ecosystem of youth work and connecting all the various parents and families, inshallah, in this youth work? So, in my experience, the most transformative programs and events relied heavily on a lot of father presence. So I'll give an example. Times I've taken youth camping, like young men camping, right? Versus the times I've taken young men camping with their fathers, world of a difference. And yes, we'd had fathers there who have never been camping. We had fathers there who have never cooked food for other people. We had fathers there who have never corrected their child on anything. And, a couple times where I've taken fathers on these kinds of trips with, on these youth groups, my goal was the fathers. I didn't even spend time with the youth. I'd go and coach the dad. Baba, please go and do this. can you go and take care of this? And when I give that sense of responsibility, when we give that sense of shared responsibility, it's not coming from Umar, the brother Umar, or whatever the youth director, it's coming from another Baba. Hey, I need help. And when the men stand together and are strong, like we stand in Salah, shoulder to shoulder, right? And we do that in every facet of life, I think that's where it's transformative. So it's about pulling people out of their comfort zone, number one. Number two, challenging them to do something they're not used to doing, right? And number three, letting them see the results themselves, right? So it's very, very important to see what you're doing having an impact and transformation on others. I've had fathers come and tell me, Umar, I didn't want to go and do this thing. Well, Jazakallah khair for pulling me and making me do it. It's changed my life. There was like some of my close friends, they'd be the quietest man. Like they don't talk, they don't say salam, they don't smile at other people. You know, they don't deal with their kids at all. Take them on an event or have them do something with us. It changed their whole personality, right? And I think that's what's missing, right? A lot of the time. Having that. So it starts with an invitation. There was a community where the youth director guy, who was in charge of some youth programs, he didn't like parents showing up to the programs. Like he didn't like it. I was very critical of it. I said, why is he preventing the parents from showing up to this? Like, no, it doesn't make any sense. You're not a replacement for parents, you're a support. And this is the key. Nobody should be replacing parents. Teachers in schools should not be replacing the parents at home. Right? Teachers in Islamic schools should not be replacing the parents. The Quran teacher who teaches tajweed and hifz doesn't replace the parents. Even in that capacity, right? The father or the mother may not have the ability to teach tajweed and hifz or whatever it is, or tafsir, to the same degree as the shaykh or whoever it is. But if it's just the shaykh and just the imam teaching tajweed and hifz to the kid, there's always going to be that disconnect. There's always going to be a lapse. Because the child is going to think it's not important to mama and baba, it's important to the shaykh. Does it make sense? So it's inviting everybody to a higher level of being themselves. Inshallah, if you were to ask me how I would do this, I don't know if you guys can tell, I'm very blunt and open. So I wear my heart on my sleeve, and I have no issue saying, hey, I need you to come. You know, I have no issue in saying, this is your kid. Like, you know? So I mean, that's for me, that's my perspective. Tyler, do you have something? The question was, how do you get parents engaged in this ecosystem of youth development? Inshallah. Do you have something to add to it?
No, I think that you kind of hit the nail on the head. I think it's really two things. I have a much more simplified answer. But the complicated one is great too.
I'm sorry.
I'm enough for all that you don't. I think the first thing is get the parents to actually show up. I'm a really big believer that after message should be something for everybody, from the moment you're born to the moment you die. There should be something for the masjid. The masjid should be a place that offers, that helps you achieve that spiritual fulfillment. So number one, get them into the masajid. If they're not there, give them a reason to come. That want to be like a hands-on involved Muslim parent just doesn't come naturally for everybody. I'm not a parent myself. It's just an observation. Ask me how I feel about this in 5 years. Maybe my answer will change. Well, I know. But the first thing is, I think that every message to offer something for everybody's spiritual fulfillment. And then number two, when they're there, I think I'm just going to echo on to what you're saying. Get them involved, get parents involved. I think that people really underestimate how much parents do value that. So whether it's something as simple as like an arts and crafts activity, or as complicated as like a volcano explosion. Like I think that just the act of like seeing your child do something and know that you contributed to that part of that happiness or that part of their growth is like fulfilling for parents. So I'm absolutely echoing on to everything that you said. But get them involved, and then or get them to come and get them involved.
The question was, what would you say? Just like, how would you answer?
Somebody have another question?
Any other questions? Does your staff?
I have a question that maybe is the flip side of what was just asked. how might you approach if there's a perception either with particular youth or in general, where maybe parents are not stepping up enough, or they could be, for lack of better terms, related to the source of the problem that's trickling down to the children
Soft?
and it's coming up. And how would you also approach, I guess, related to that, maybe family conflicts that may come to you, or where people request intervention or one-on-one counseling? But really focusing on the parents too.
I would piggyback on what she just mentioned, because Tada mentioned a great point about parents being involved in activities. And for me personally, because I like being active, I think sports is a huge thing for kids. It's not only physically healthy for them to engage in sports from a young age, but also it's important for you. Because the culture in America is you go sit and watch your kid play soccer. You sit and you watch your kid do taekwondo. You sit as a parent all the time. But what if you engaged with them? What if the guys played basketball with their sons? What if the ladies played soccer with their daughters? What if you sparred at home with your kid? That's another level of engagement that we're not doing enough, because it's healthy for them and healthy for us to keep moving. It's healthy for us to engage with the things that they are really passionate about. And when they're young, it's movement. And when they're older, it's still going to be movement, because movement is a form of therapy for everybody. It's therapy for them, and it's therapy for us. The more stressed out we are, the more we need movement. And so I think that's, for me, from my background, that's a huge piece of the puzzle, is that would you be able to have a difficult conversation with your son over a basketball game? Would you be able to just let off some steam by running around with your daughter? So sometimes conflicts with kids and teenagers can be solved in really unexpected ways. So sometimes I believe you need to use movement in order to reach them, to get them out of their comfort zone. We don't need to do the outdated, sit down, I'm gonna have a talk with you when I have issues with, myself and I don't know how to do it. Let's just get everything out in movement and then talk.
Okay. So regarding approaching issues of finding parents that aren't stepping up to the plate, right? That was the question? Source of the problem. So I believe in difficult conversations. I'm a big believer in them, and I try not to shy away from them. And I think some people need to hear things from somebody who's not going to judge them for it. We can empathize and understand why a parent is parenting a certain way. I can understand exactly why my father parented the way he parented. I can understand why my mother parented the way she parented. And I can understand why I parent the way I parent. And I can understand what somebody's personal situation or what they're going through is causing them to parent in the way they are. And a lot of the time, I think people just don't know better, right? They don't know that there's a better way to do things or what the benefit of doing something differently would be. And it's not for lack of not caring or for laziness or whatever it is. A lot of the time, I do believe it's they don't understand it, what could be better. And I've had conversations with parents in this regard. And there's a process to how you're going to say things. So it's مثلا in our Islamic schools, a safe example is, a kid who is coming into the Islamic school and, we had a situation where they were doing terribly with Quran in the school. They're not reading, they don't want to memorize, they're not doing anything. And the parent is coming complaining, why is my kid getting a grade for Quran? It should be extra, why are you making a grade in all of this? So I went and I talked to them and said, okay, what's going on at home? Why is Quran so difficult for this kid? So I had a conversation with the mother. It was I explained why having this Quran program in the school is important. We're not doing full Quran hifd. We're just, very basic, mellow, very easy, wallahi, very manageable level of hifd that we wanted the students to have, and engagement with the Quran on a daily basis at home, right? Explain this to her. And so I asked, do you know how to read Quran? She said no. Right? I was like, does your husband know how to read Quran? No. So, okay. My suggestion is, if you want your kid in Islamic school, the first Islamic school is your home. I said, my suggestion for you is, please go and take an online class on how to read Quran. I will teach you if you guys want. And she was very appreciative. She said, Jazakallah khair, I am actually going to take this to heart. I think that's really important. Quran is important, so it should be important to me, so the Quran should be important to my child. Right? So it's those difficult conversations. What was the second part of your question? Inshallah.
It was
How would I approach the need if a young person came with me with a family conflict? I think privacy is a big deal, right? And I think young people, I think everybody, honestly, men included, we need people who we can talk to without fear of judgment and fear of namim, or like gossip happening or starting because of it. And having that option open for people to come and talk about what's going through, just to process the situation and process the issue, not necessarily get a resolution or not necessarily get somebody to come in and intervene and solve it, which I think is a big problem when people hear something and then they go and they jump in. And they go and say, oh, I need to go and solve this. Oh, this is a big dhulm or whatever. This is a big problem, I need to go and... And unfortunately, even imams fall into this a lot. Sometimes things just take hearing it out, making dua, and having somebody there who can kind of help you process it as not something that necessarily needs to be fixed. Now, of course, there's different situations, like if there's abuse or there's this and that, we have protocol that we have to follow with certain like domestic issues, right? And for me, I take things very seriously. Not to the sense like, oh, if I hear somebody saying my dad hit me, I'm going to call Child Protective Services or anything like that. A'udhu billah. But, seeing if there's follow-up needed, right? Is there some amm or uncle or auntie in the community I can go and talk to this person and say, hey, is everything okay at home? Or, have a conversation in a decent and dignified manner, inshallah. I hope that answered the question, inshallah. We only have a couple more minutes. Is there any other? Oh, sorry, yes. Please.
Oh, you want to hear Tana's thoughts? Thank you. No, I think I think that, when it comes to how do you deal with, for lack of a better term, like soft parents, right? It's like my preferred term is also, I'm pretty sure I'm as blunt, if not blunter, than Arlen. I think that it's hard, especially for Muslims that, I don't know if I would use the word conservative, but maybe that they hold on to their view a little bit more. Sometimes it's hard to look at people and you just wonder what's going on, how do you justify that? But I think that there has to be some redirection, just a little bit of humility. This is my value system. I have conviction, I have belief that my value system is more correct. But at the end of the day, I'm going to use that hustle of fun. I'm going to give whatever person the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to say, hey, look, at the end of the day, inshallah, they're doing what they think is best for their child. And I think I would kind of what Arlen mentioned, say hey, look, I don't know if you noticed, but and just offer not recorrection per se, especially because again, I'm not a mom, I can't judge, I can't impose my beliefs onto others, but kind of just say, hey, I noticed this in case you didn't. And usually, for most people, navigating it with humility it tends to offer that redirection for themselves. One time I had a mom come up to me and she was like, hey, like, I don't dress modestly. I wear almost whatever I want. I don't wear hijab. I kind of hate it. I wore it as a teenager and taking it off because I felt ugly. But I have been unintentionally like imposing that onto my daughter. Like, now my daughter's getting older. She's wearing whatever she wants. And I want that. Like, I want better for her than I have for myself. So she's not the type to dress her daughter in like leggings under the dresses or whatever. But I think that for a lot of people, especially Muslims that are, the fact that the parent is in the masjid is a good thing. No matter where they're being. They recognize that this is a place where ideally, whether or not I'm there spiritually, I want my child to be there. And that, for me, is enough to say, okay, here's my 2 cents, whether or not you want to hear it. How I go about navigating that is whether it is going to help them listen or not. When it comes to familial conflict, I think that it's really important to recognize that nobody wants their business out there, especially not youth, because it's not your business at that point. Like if my parents are going through divorce, or if my mom's in a domestically violent situation, or if we can't afford to put food on the table, why would I want my youth director to know all that stuff? Why would I want my youth director to know that I have like a 2.0 GPA? Why would I want my youth director to know that I'm like gaining weight at a rapid rate, or that I was caught with like inappropriate browser history? So I could not talk about the privacy, but also kind of just being a listening ear and saying, look, this is a safe space. I think for parents, a lot of times it's misunderstood intentions where they are trying to they want the best for their child and probably interpret it the right way for the child. So they just kind of need the mediator in between. Somebody to say, hey, look, this is where they're coming from. Whether or not you're right or wrong, this is the other perspective, and then you're able to just navigate a little bit better. But all you can really do, and other than that, is make dua, and you don't know what's behind closed doors. And inshallah, like, the longer that the masjid, the better.
So as far as interventions go for girls, subhanAllah, it depends on the culture that you develop in the masjid. It depends also on the culture that we talked about before, of trust, the culture of lack of namina and ghiba and all of these things. That's how kids will trust you and parents will trust you with issues. So when people come to you, or us, or any one of us, or the imam of the masjid, it really depends on what the community is at the time. And every situation is different. Every situation, every parent might need more or something a little less or something a little more from the person that they're going to. So it changes from situation to situation, and what we have to do is just create that healthy environment for people to open up, and healthy environment for us to reach out in the ways where we can communicate and know exactly where we're needed to step in. It's not something that we can just have open intervention, sit down time, we're gonna hash this out. Some things need a more delicate touch. Some things need not an entire team. Sometimes it needs one afternoon, sometimes it needs a month, 2 months of sitting down and talking things out. And when parents are involved, like I said, we need to work on ourselves. We need to be healthy for ourselves so we can be there for our kids. We need to work on what you said earlier, that there needs to be programs for every age from 0 till our elderly. That's so true. Because nobody will be their best self. Nobody can reach ihsan individually if we're not truly trying to take care of ourselves. We can't help other people with their cup half full. So having that hikmah to help each other, help ourselves, is part of the solution. And when it comes to actually doing the intervention part and having very sensitive issues taken care of, sometimes communities need to just be okay with it being hush-hush and quiet. It doesn't have to be something that comes all the way to the masjid's door, or it gets taken care of at the masjid. It can be taken care of at home. Omar has a history of going to homes privately and taking care of things. And that's what I'm talking about, is that as a community, we take care of each other, and sometimes if you feel so burdened by something, there is certain lines that we can draw so that you don't feel that things will get out of control. And bi'idhnillah ta'ala, we can all be there for each other. It has to be a culture that we build. Inshallah.
I think we have to end because we're delaying Isha and then. Yeah? Inshallah. So we'll end with ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us all ihsan and to bless us in our families and with our wives and our children and with our husbands and between ourselves, inshallah, bi'idhnillah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless this community and all the communities of the Muslims around the world. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help our brothers and sisters in Gaza and in Sudan and in Yemen and all around the world. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد ان لا اله الا انت نستغفرك ونتوب اليك وجزاكم الله خير والسلام عليكم ورحمه الله وبركاته. Oh, I turned it off.
جزاكم الله خير for our panel.